welcome back as we get ready to go into set number 3 of the day. We have now reached the halfway point, and what better way to start off the second half of our day? Well, we got elimination games, and it's between the two Spanish powerhouses of the EU, SCC/SOC, the El Clasico, as much of the EU Twitter has deemed it here. Thunderhead and JUSTF6, two teams come in, but only one team gets to make it out of this set alive. Or at least, not really alive. That was a weird way to put it.
No, alive.
Only one makes
Someone's
out.
gonna
It's a
die.
gladiator showdown for who gets to stay in the play-ins. No, one team will be done with their tournament life over here during this event. It's J-Mac Tucker and Gormizer here to get ready to jump into our third set of the day. And man, what a great way to start that set out right
All
now.
I'm going to say is the stakes sound like, yes, if you lose here, your chance of getting into the SPL drops dramatically. Also, you get knocked out of the tournament immediately. But it sounds dramatically less impactful when you had prefaced it with survival prior to that. It's life, and then it's okay. Well, maybe you might be able to make it into the SPL as long as you continue winning here.
Yeah, you still got to keep making your run through the lower bracket if you want to make it into the SPL at this point. Let's take a look at the schedule and see what you missed. Oni Homies and Winter Dogs got their 2-0s earlier on today. Congrats to them. They keep going on up to the upper bracket. Samsar and nobody's favorite now joining the lower bracket. And the winner of this game here will be moving on in the tournament. Loser goes home. It'll be the same for our next match of the day. It's 2 elimination games to end out the latter half of our day. The winner here will face off against Samsara, specifically up in the loser's bracket. And then, neighborhood and reverse card winner of that will move on to face nobody's favorite. Still best of 3s all the way down here. The only time that we will see those best of 5s will be the very last of the winner's bracket, very last set of that winner's bracket, and then the very last set of the loser's bracket as well. Those will both be best of 5s, but those will both be one on Saturday, one on Sunday. But we're only on Thursday. We're on day 2 of this 5-day event. I couldn't have it any other way. I mean, double elimination, 10 teams coming out here to fight. And for what? One of the most coveted things you can get, and there's 2 of them, an SPL spot, a career, a means of being able to kind of guarantee more competitive Smite throughout the entirety of this year of 2022.
And what was wild to me is that there's a world where we actually get to see Thunderhead. If they win this set, they just get a rematch against Samsara, right? Like for JUSTF6, it'd be a fresh match, but that'd be a nice little head-to-head for them if they are able to make it there. And it does make things interesting because these teams, like you have to imagine, and this is in my mind, I'm not entirely sure how true it is, but an SOC team versus an SCC team, both in Europe, both that speak the same language, they've probably played each other at least for practice in the past year or so. So you have to imagine that they know at least enough about each other, if not anything, than in the ranked queues as well.
Yeah, I mean, scrimming is kind of a big thing between a lot of these teams, especially when you're in the SCC, SOC, and especially within your own region here. But JUSTF6, kind of the SCC of the powerhouses of these two teams out here, really want to try and make their mark known. Again, talking with Alpha yesterday about this JUSTF6 team, this is a team that's been around for a little while. They've been building themselves up over the last couple of years here, recently adding Maskill over to the roster kind of at the tail end of Season 8. And they've really been able to make a nice little turnaround in their team play by adding this player here.
Yeah, I think you go back to watching last year, and at the very beginning of the year, there was a lot left wanting. I think you could see the growth potential for JUSTF6, but there wasn't as much there, especially when you look at Soda Stratwo and Toddy. They all had competitive experience coming into last year, so it was this conversation of like, okay, how much are you going to be able to grow? And they didn't do too much. Then they pick up Maskill, and their growth started almost immediately looking a lot better for them. It still didn't end up exactly where they wanted in the SCC, but you could take night and day from the beginning of the year JUSTF6 for Season 8 to the end of the year JUSTF6, and they are wildly different teams with the end of the year ending up in a much better position. So I expect to see a lot out of them today. I think we're going to get to see the culmination of that and showcase why they were one of the most improved teams we got to see last year.
And I think that a wheelish play that we see out of Maskill, the second game yesterday was very impressive up against Duck Club, but I think my favorite moment was, even though they were just about to lose, Maskill goes in, he blinks, and he basically kind of one-taps Luconium, and you just see him cackling. He's like, yeah, we lost, but I got a pretty sick kill there against Luconium. I don't know if anybody else saw that. Like, watching the player cams, the energy, even if they're losing, the energy is still up there, and it's a team that is all about learning and improving, and that's one of the things that the coach really honed in on for this JUSTF6 team, is making sure they can improve. We've been talking a lot about Maskill. Let's go ahead and talk to Maskill here for our pregame interview. Good to have you here. Impressive games so far yesterday. Now you're going to go against another one of the EU kind of SCC, SOC teams. I imagine you guys have probably been doing a little bit of scrimming with these guys too.
Yep, we've known each other like forever, really. Like we've played each other for like 3 years already. So we're kind of just friends now. Like an hour and a half ago, we're just playing ping pong against each other. So yeah, it will definitely be a fun matchup. I think there's definitely going to be some fireworks, and yeah, we know each other basically.
A nice little game of ping pong between two SCC, SOC teams out here. You know, kind of the importance of one thing that kind of gets brought up is having strategies in the back pocket. You know, when you've expended your main resources, you got to kind of dig deep to find something. How important is it to have those kind of backup plans when it comes down to these elimination games?
Well, I think it's kind of important. I don't think it's like a deal breaker or anything, but yeah, as long as you use your weapons like you know and like you've been practicing for, you should be fine. But yeah, Thunderhead is a team especially that has a lot of back pocket picks, so yeah, we'll be dealing with that
Yeah.
hopefully.
Well, we look forward to seeing what you guys are able to do. I'll let you get back with the teams. That way you guys can get set up. Thanks for coming in for the interview.
All right, thank you.
I think it's important to kind of pull back there. You know, it's one question I like to always bring up when it comes to these elimination games is how important is having those strategies. And you hear it here. It's important to have some, but it's not kind of the end all be all.
Yeah.
But I like what he ends there with. Thunderhead always has something kind of crazy going, and it just comes naturally when you've been playing against those same players for so long. You know that they're willing to dig deep.
When you have a team, so like scrim partners used to be a huge deal and was like a big conversation. When you have a team that you've played against, you get to know each other really well. You know your tendencies, what they like to do. We would see some people who it's like, well, you know, we spent all this year playing with each other. And then it's like, oh, well, now we've spent the last 2 years playing against each other. Oh, no, they've been playing for 3. Like, they are going to know each other's tendencies. They played through metas against each other. I think it's going to be interesting because sometimes when you have a matchup like this, you end up in just meta picks. And sometimes you end up in the wonkiest zones in the world because it's just like, you know what? We know that you like to play X, Y, and Z, and this god that nobody ever touches is going to, you know, happen to counter one of those really, really niche picks you love. And so you can get into a really weird area, and I'm just curious as to what we're going to get out of these two today.
I mean, we got to see a lot of, you know, these NA teams really smack their heads against each other in the, you know, the more North American style of play, the very aggressive, very early. But now we kind of get a nice little classic look at the EU metas that have been developing between these two teams, even in their own respective tiers of competitive play between SOC and SCC, and then SPL. It's 3 different tiers of play. And looking at this Thunderhead roster, they've had some change-ups to their team as the years have gone through. But even still, you know, talking about the fact that they've been playing against each other for such a long period of time, there are still some very standout names out here. Chekio, probably the biggest one that a lot of people recognize. But I've been rather impressed by the remainder of this team. I mean, Mark, Ray Shadow, even Dark Wizard yesterday have had some very standout plays on this team.
I think it's going to be fun to watch. Chekio, especially since he's on screen, is easy to talk about just because he might have, I'm pretty sure, the most competitive experience in this lobby that we're going to see across these 10 players. Like, he's just been playing forever. He has got such a good history behind him. And so I'm excited to see what they're able to do. Thunderhead as a whole looked pretty solid yesterday against Samsara in game number 2. And it's recapturing some of that magic. Game 3 didn't go the way they wanted. It kind of spiraled out of control quickly. But I do think they have that spark that is necessary. And you could really see it, you know, when Wangu got a little more aggressive, got more into the fights. But specifically, you got it out of Mark as well in mid lane. I feel like, you know, I looked at the duo lane on this team because I recognized Dark Wizard and Chekio coming into this tournament, that was going to be maybe an essential position for them to be able to win it. But I think what we got to see yesterday is that they do have those win conditions elsewhere in the map. And I actually think Ray Shadow going up against Maskill, keeping that under control and having that 2v2 in mid is going to be a really big deal for either of these teams to find a win.
And I think that mid lane is probably one of the bigger places to kind of dial in and kind of really talk about, because it seems that mid has had one of the biggest shifts in the meta. I mean, we went from the very end of Season 8 to being, you know, kind of Hunter mid, very few mages. Now we're seeing basically nothing but mages. And talking about the mid lane, we do have its Mark, the mid laner, for the Thunderhead standing by to talk to a little bit about us and maybe kind of talk about this mid lane meta. It really seems that there's been a huge shift in this meta as this new season has come through.
Yeah, the mid lanes this season are kind of OP, but not only for the damage. I think the way you can guide your team to every team fight on gold and just always try to pick the people and right on the mid side of the map, it's so powerful to straight win the games.
Right.
You can easy take the win on the game so easy.
Right, of course, getting that mid control is so important for the team
Yeah.
out here. And kind of talking, we talked over to Maskill just a little bit earlier on, and you guys have been playing each other for such a long time. I mean, what's it like going from, scrim partner to just kind of playing during a league, and now one of you could be eliminating the other when it comes to SPL? Talk about that little
Yeah,
relationship
man.
a bit.
We are playing like Clásico Español. It's insane how much time we've been playing together, like relegations and this stuff. And we always have same level. I think we could win one game. They can win the next one, but I think they will be pretty nice games against them.
Yeah.
And have a nice set.
Yeah, sure to be. I'm very excited for this set. Just getting to see the El Clasico come out here. Thank you so much, Mark, for taking the time to talk with us. I'll let you back with the team so you guys can strategize and get ready for the game.
Thank you.
Such a big one here. Much love between these players for really just their own teams. And again, for how long they've been playing with each other. You got to imagine it's really nothing but respect between them. Talk about the different styles and metas that they've played around with each other for so long. I was really excited for the Winter Dog set, more than anything. But I think now, just kind of talking to these two players specifically, this might be now one of my more favorite sets of the week to be watching.
Yeah, honestly, looking at it, with the way that the bracket had shaken out, this is probably going to be the closest that we have to getting a 3-game set today, and I think it's maybe going to be one of the closest ones that we can have maybe all weekend just because of the history these two teams have with each other. I think this is going to be a very much head-to-head, like JUSTF6 kind of showcasing why they're the team that was in the higher league, technically, in the Challenger circuit as opposed to the Open circuit, or showcasing why they deserve to continue going forward. And I think it's a good chance for Thunderhead, I mean, not only being able to beat essentially a scrim partner here, but also being able to get that chance to take on Samsara a second time, try to win there, and continue on in this bracket. It really does help create just a fun storyline to watch for both of them, right? I mean, they each have something that's going for them. And of course, we've seen, this is going to be much more EU than what we've seen out of the Leviathans, but we've seen specifically Spanish-speaking teams do pretty well in Smite recently. So it would be fun to watch what these two are going to be capable of.
Well, we talked a lot about what could potentially come out here. Let's see what happens in picks and bans for game number 1 between Thunderhead and JUSTF6. JUSTF6 electing to take second pick in this slot. And I think the most important thing going out there is talking about how long these teams have been playing against each other, how many different gods have come in and out of their god pools respectively. And we've been seeing what meta has developed so far at this LAN.
Yeah.
And we kind of know what's the standard, quote-unquote, at this point. But when you play against a team this long, when you've played with these guys for such a long time, we might be seeing, maybe not game number 1, but kind of game 2 and potentially game 3, some really deep respect bans.
Yeah, that's where I think things are going to be a little more fun to watch. I also want to throw this out there. If you're rooting for Thunderhead right now, and you want to know, like, in my head, every time I read their name, I hear Thunderstruck by AC/DC. So, like, if you're at home, like, just open a tab and start playing the song, and just make it all match up, right? It'll be good only for picks and bans. And then if they start winning, you can do it like as it ends, because that'd be pretty sick, right? It's like a little cinematic for you.
Like a sound alert.
It's gonna be fun. I'm just excited to see what these teams have to offer. Like you said, sometimes there's gonna be respect bans. So far, most of it is not necessarily standing out, although they do feel a little more honed into specifics of what the other team is going to have, as opposed to just the blanket bans. I mean, a lot of supports that are still available, like Emoja's still on the board, things like that. And so there's a lot open, while they're still targeting specific carries that have been very prominent the last couple of days.
Fenrir, Amusin-Cobb, and Sol banned away instantly by Thunderhead and Izanami Gilgamesh, and I think the most interesting one of Ho Yi, because Ho Yi has had a fairly high pick rate, very low ban rate from what if I'm not mistaken, and has had varying degrees of success so far, about a 50-50 on his win rate at this point. And it's, first off, it's probably the most wins that Ho Yi has seen since, like, way back when Phase 3 did not favor him very heavily in Season 8. But then, kind of the one that maybe scratch your head a little bit, a first pick Khepri, after seeing like 1, maybe 2 bans throughout the week so far. Getting a first pick is very surprising.
Yeah, especially over, I mean, we've seen teams really highly prioritizing Amaterasu. Yamoja, in my mind, and for my money, is still, like, the best support that you can have out there in the right hands. She just changes so much and controls so much of the game and just meshes with pretty much any style that you really want to play. And so going for the Khepri over that, I mean, his res is really good. His setup is very solid for your team. And of course, I think he is one of the more frustrating Guardians to have to deal with, right? Because unless you have an execute, more often than not, someone's getting res. Now all of a sudden you have to kill somebody. Essentially, it's like 5.5 lives, because it doesn't res you enough that it's 6 lives. If they get a lot of healing, though, all of a sudden then it's like a 6th man that you have to burn through in order to get a full dub there. With Chiron and ESET right next to it, I think it really does set up to the next level of setup potential, because a Khepri pull into a huge stun with a few autos or a wind gust from ESET, all of a sudden you're melted.
And then up against the ESET is going to be a Thoth. Because we do have the Khepri, and I haven't seen Khepri go literally anywhere except for support, and I think even in trolling style matches, I rarely ever see Khepri go anywhere besides the support role. We'll be seeing this ESET go back to mid. It was Mark who first brought her back into mid during this tournament. Elion followed up in the previous set. But now we get to see that ESET one more time. And up against Thoth, who has made it a monumentous rise in popularity. Not just because of that double flat pen meta, but I think that might be one of kind of the biggest proponents of it.
Yeah, really, the itemization right now benefits him. Plus, and this is always the case, but like whenever you're looking at ranked games and depending on the echelon of play, you will end up seeing Thoth do really well, right? Because as of right now, where he's standing, it's a lot harder to deal with him. If you are watching, Titans versus Leviathans, you just drop them into this meta from, a month and a half ago. You just, accelerate where things were. Thoth probably gets kind of shredded throughout all of that. So I really like what he's going to be able to provide, plus the distance and the damage. He's got good secure to help keep up with that circle of protection.
Cerberus Odin banned away by JUSTF6. Kamazot's Medusa taking away one of the better boxing hunters out here. But speaking on hunters, one that got a very small buff. It was something that seems so minuscule at first. Cernanos gets locked in. He got a cripple added to his second ability, the Bramble Blast. So
that's actually kind of good.
So now not only does it root, it cripples, and that's only though if you do hit them with the actual shot, not just the actual Bramble, that sticks around afterwards. But I was actually kind of surprised that we have seen a lack of Cernanos over the years. I mean, it feels like he had a very strong meta on his release, kind of when it was just building lots of attack speed and getting kin size. You just build for a bunch of yellow numbers. And then Cernanos just kind of disappeared for such a long time, Gordon.
Yeah, and it's always this weird. I feel like I've seen like Zap play him a few times, right? Like he always gets brought out like once or twice a year in the SPL, and unless the meta is really, really vibing for him, he does not really swing as hard, or the control. There's a lot to kind of think about with him as well, like controlling the seasons, whether you're going for slows, you're going for power, you're going for lifesteal, etc., etc. But I will say, team fight-wise, I love his ult. I think a huge fat polymorph for your team is just really good setup. Like you said, with his 2, the Bramble Blast, you've got pretty decent clear early on, but realistically, that's good control in the lane. You're going up against a Chiron Khepri, so it's not like you're going to get out-pushed. It's really going to be interesting. I think the Emoja helps set this lane up and elevate it so that he can do fine, but much like, I would argue, most hunters, maybe he's not at the top of the tier list, but as long as he's got the right items under his belt and with the way things have been going, I expect that, and he stays at least even, I expect a good game out of him.
I mean, pretty solid boxing between the 4 different stances that he can be in with his first ability. Whatever season he decides to be, he can either have protection shred, bonus damage, extra lifesteal, or even a slow. And I remember there was a very, very small time when Runeforge was very overstated for a while, and he became very popular just because you sit in blue stance, get your Runeforge procs, and you just kind of go crazy. But I don't know if we'll see that today here out of the Cernos. But a Serket to kind of round out this composition here for JUSTF6. And Gore kind of going in these head-to-head matchups here. This Cabrakan that's been so popular towards the support role. We did see it once in the jungle earlier on. Now it's looking like we're going to be seeing him go over towards solo lane against Ama.
Yeah, this is going to be interesting to see. I think Ama, again, I've been talking about it a lot the last couple of days. She's been in this weird spot where she's not necessarily like losing lane completely, but she's not really winning the lane either. It is very much, hey, join the team fights, your team can win off of that, and how you keep up, as long as you're within 2 levels or a level ideally of your opponent, you should be fine. Cabrakan can bully pretty hard early on, but I feel like you have just the right, you've got a good silence, you've got good clear if you're Ama, so I feel like some of the things that gives Cabrakan his strengths might be countered out here if used properly. It's all about cycling the right abilities and things like that. Still, though, he hits pretty hard, so you're going to have to be careful.
When you're looking over at this Thunderhead draft they picked up, that Khepri first pick was something that we talked a lot about here. And what JUSTF6 has kind of drafted around this Khepri, Gore, do you think that what this JUSTF6 team has is enough to try and deal with this Khepri? Well, I won't even give you an opportunity to talk about that. Instead, we'll let the casters do the talking as we jump right into game number 1.
Our first knockout matchup of the weekend, Thunderhead versus JUSTF6. Stakes at an all-time high, and these are two teams, Mifflin, that have played against one another for a little while here, both very familiar with the way that each other like to play the game. And we got a little bit of spice going on in this game. Anywhere you look on the map, Miff, feels like we've got something interesting or unique to look at. I want to start right here with Toddy, the Cernanos, not a pick that we've seen all that much of.
And when we talk about CC hunters, I mean, he's certainly in the conversation. The ultimate, turning whoever you hit with it into a pig, essentially just a polymorph. Very strong. But compare it to some of the other CC that's applicable to these hunters, like the instant burst damage that Izanami brings, followed up by the silence, or even Medusa's ultimate as well. Massive AoE space control like a Ho Yi. I think he just kind of gets outclassed in that regard. But in the most recent patches, he has seen a buff where Bramble Blast now applies a cripple if you hit the initial proc of it, which is going to help out a lot with his ability to finish off some of these kills or even set up the ults.
How about this aggression? Level 2 reached in the mid lane, but no first blood, as Mark will back away. But that is taking advantage of a moment in a split-second decision for both Sotos and Maskill, but Thunderhead able to get out and avoid dropping first blood. That will open up, though, Maskill to rotate into the Thunderhead side of the jungle, grab away some of that farm, so early advantage, however slim it might be, goes over to JUSTF6.
And JUSTF6 should be able to maintain that advantage in mid just because Thoth is really good at applying poke. You're already stripping away some of the HP resources. Pulled in!
Oh, the tower does get hit, and Mark on the fadeaway grabs first blood. The pull from Ray Shadow, so important. How about the pull from Dark Wizard, though, on left? Rotwin pops the shell and will walk away, but first blood on over to Mark. Be careful, Mark. You don't have any more mana to be fighting this one. Sotos gets the root.
He's gonna
There's too
die.
much damage. The minions are flying back into Sotos. Just needs a little bit more. We're on a nice edge all over the map. But it's Thunderhead. When it's all said and done, that get first blood. No other kills drop.
Man, JUSTF6 are playing with fire in the mid lane. First off, standing on tower line against a Susano, probably not the best move you can make. Just very easy for the Ray Shadow to pull you in that situation. That's exactly what cost Maskill his life. But even Sotos there, trying to get aggressive on his own, nearly lose out on his own life. Had Mark just had a little bit more mana at that time, likely would be able to find that return kill off that aggressive dash in. But taking a peek at the potions that Mark had elected to go for, no mana pots, just multis.
Maskill is on
Good
left,
time.
double taunt in to the stun.
See ya.
Beads burned. Dark Wizard backing away from the fight. And JUSTF6 do not want to commit further without knowing exactly where Ray Shadow is. Nothing more on left. Nice gank attempt by Maskill, but where is Ray Shadow? Ray Shadow rotating right. He will help Wengu steal away the blue buff. And so the pressure of the Kabrakan solo lane starting to pay off.
Yeah, Lestemix is going to be really suffering now. The blue buff is intrinsically tied to Amaterasu's ability to just maintain sustain in the lane. Her first ability, every time you utilize it, is going to give you some of that HP back, but you can't just sit there and spam the ability if you're not regenerating your mana. You need to have the ability to cancel out Wengu's Tremors or something along those lines, so Lestemix is going to be struggling for the next couple of minutes, not just in mana, but also in just losing out on that farm.
Have we seen Kabrakan, we've seen solo Kabrakan, obviously, right now.
Yep.
We've seen support Kabrakan this week.
Yeah, sure have.
And then where was it? Jungle or mid?
We saw jungle.
Saw jungle Kabrakan as
that
well.
was Kuvo.
Kabrakan all over the place. What do we think of solo Kabrakan here, Miff? Starts Vampiric Shroud, obviously into a little bit of defense. Maybe the pressure early with the help of Ray Shadow, hoping with the blue buff pressure.
I think that Kabrakan in solo is certainly viable, but of the 3 roles that we've seen him in, it's my least favorite because of how matchup dependent he is. If Lestemix is playing aptly, he should be able to cancel out the Tremors pretty consistently, but that does cost you your dash.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit of a double-edged sword. I think that Kabrakan's main strength is his ability to get involved. The second he ticks over to level 5, you want to utilize that wall. It's very good at controlling the majority of meta mid laners, and you don't really get to utilize that in the early portions of the game when you put him in solo. By the time these solo laners start rotating, I wouldn't be surprised if we already have a Phantom Shell.
1 level beat over in the duo lane here. Dark Wizard and Czechia withstood that early gank from Maskill. So the Sarkette has been active on the map early in this game, but fell for first blood in the mid lane. Decent little abduct there by Dark Wizard. But over here in the dual lane, things continue to be quiet. And I think the ability for this Khepri, never mind.
Great
That
ult.
is entirely my fault. I say things are going to be quiet, but it
Whoa.
is absolutely perfect from JUSTF6. Maskill heads on over to left. And an incredible ultimate from Rotwin. Double Rivers Rebuke into the double engage from Maskill. Easy as you like. JUSTF6 will take 2 to go.
Yeah, Maskill has to hit pay dirt on that gank. He's tried twice now to rotate over towards the duo lane, essentially sacrificing Lestemix in the solo, who has lost out on yet another blue buff, as well as the back camps on this side of the map. So had Maskill rotated over and not gotten those kills, the deficit would be massive. Raid Shadow would likely have about a full level lead. It would be duo lane feeling very good for Thunderhead as well. So very well done from Maskill, not getting discouraged off of those first couple of failed ganked attempts.
And that brings this game right back closer to even. Thunderhead was a touch in the lead until this play happens.
Oh, it's so clean.
And it looked like Chekio might have just been able to sneak out of the Rivers Rebuke. And Maskill taunts the Chiron right back in range. And that is inch perfect from Rotwin. So everyone doing their job there, and then of course Tadia's got to deal a whole lot of the damage. And you're right, Miff. It was very important for that gank to work out. Thunderhead had pulled just a little bit in the lead. Those 2 kills bring JUSTF6 right back close to even. Still a bit of an edge though for Thunderhead in the mid lane. Mark with that early kill. And Eye of the Jungle, that's his starter item, able to pull a 1-level lead over Sotos.
Yeah, but the duo lane is reflecting a different story. 1-level lead for both of JUSTF6 laners. Level 6 on Rotwin to Dark Wizards 5, and Toddy GR has got 1 on his opposition as well. But look at Matt, where'd he go?
What? That's circular protection.
What?
Oh my god, it's happening again, Miff. You and I and like deletions in the mid lane. We just can't get away from it today. Mark dies, Maskill does as well. But Mark able to deal the damage with that circular protection. That insta-burst, I mean, I call it sneaky. The Spirit Ball, the Wind Gust, the circle of protection kind of like insta-popped. I think maybe caught Maskill a bit off guard. But Sotos with the final judgment, able to send the damage through and return that kill. So 1 for 1 in mid.
Man, I just want to do some analysis. That's all I want to do. But these guys keep blowing each other up immediately, dude. It is wild. The great turnaround from Isotos in mid to make sure that doesn't go completely negative. Mark doing a great job of at least trading out his own life as well.
Wengu ganked now over in solo. The walls separate Maskill from the re-engage, but Lestemix will snag this one over on the right. A Rivers Rebuke, hello! We'll send Rotwin right back towards the Fury. I think, here's what definitely happened.
Wait, what did he use that on?
He leveled up and then accidentally pressed the button instead of leveling up.
Oh, nice. Good
so
call.
here's the... and it's like the circle of protection that's not like barely charged up at all. And then Soto sends the final judgment right on through. And so both mages getting involved there in the mid lane. And yes, unfortunately, a Rivers Rebuke down. Otherwise, Rotwin might have a play to make here in mid. Instead, he's just going to walk into the stun, walk into the abduct. And luckily, Riptide's out. If Rotwin has the accidental Rivers Rebuke into a death in the mid lane, a fumble of epic proportions over the last couple of minutes, but at least stays alive.
Doug, can we see the ability priority order on its Mark? I feel like he's maxing out Spirit Ball, already swinging for like 400 damage a tick. Yeah, Spirit Ball is going to be the priority here.
Would you argue standard or?
Well, generally Wind Gust is going to be your dedicated clear ability, right? And it's also consistent damage.
Right.
Maybe he's concerned about his ability to fully channel it when you got things like Yamoja or Surcat on the other side, or maybe that's just the new meta now with a double penetration build. It's hard to argue against. I mean, I've seen the damage now.
Yeah.
Spirit Ball, even at point blank range, is doing so much damage. People have to respect it.
And so Spirit Ball is the level priority for Mark. And, when you're hitting it as consistently as Mark has been.
He hasn't missed.
Yeah, consistent damage, of course, in the Wind Gust, but when the Spirit Balls are landing in the way that they are for Mark right now. Nice little Riptide, but not backpedaling into the stun is Mark this time. Looks like another Void Stone in mid here, Miff, and then maybe even one for Wengu over there on the solo lane. An item that you and I talked about on cast earlier today, and a couple mid lane builds see some priority. Beads used by Sotos, but you can't beads out the pull when they're already down. Final judgment will not fly through. So an engage from Thunderhead, but backed away is JUSTF6.
Yeah, at least getting the beads off of Sotos is a great trade out there, but it seems like JUSTF6 are willing to keep up this fight. Sotos has to play safe.
Mark misses a Spirit Ball. Caster's Curse, I think so. Circle of protection, not getting the heal he needed. Sotos sends the damage Thunderhead's way, and now has 2 kills here in this game.
What, no way.
Over the wall, Dark Wizard won't be hit. And Dark Wizard will waddle on away, but it's a 2-for-none trade. It looks like the Gold Fury goes down as well. Massive swing here, Myth, in this elimination game number 1. JUSTF6, that gold graph tells you a story.
Oh,
Big
hold on.
swoop down,
Good reset.
but reset. It's good on you, Myth. I'm reading the gold graph, and JUSTF6 had to reset the Fury, and they will grab that gold spike downward. 3K in the lead, 4K in XP.
Man, Thunderhead just get caught unaware there. It felt like they weren't privy to the fact that JUSTF6 were starting to work their way forward. Despite having that ward defensively just below the Gold Fury, Thunderhead spot out the rotation from JUSTF6 but did not disengage fast enough. They really wanted to make sure that they got their own purple buff, and then sticking around, they gave up their purple buff, some lives, and the Gold Fury objective. JUSTF6 starting to run away.
Ray Shadow makes his way on over to right. That dazzling offensive got huge value with the CC immunity, and I think that'll keep Listimics on the map. Starting to see why Amaterasu's been prioritized this weekend. Dazzling offensive, fantastic for engage, but that CC immunity avoided so much there. The Typhoon, the last little bit, that kept Listimics on the map.
And these last couple of Rivers Rebukes just have not been hitting the mark. Dark Wizard, very easy for him to walk out of that one, and another major ultimate cooldown loss for JUSTF6, but I don't think there's too much of an opportunity cost for going on that play, considering Gold Fury's already down. Maybe you could argue that Pyromancer could be an option going forward, especially considering how strong Amaterasu is on these neutral objectives, but Maskill, he wants Czechia.
Maskill has lived
Wait,
on the
no
left
way.
side of the map. Yeah, yes way, you thought about it. No way, we're not still going, oh my god.
Whoa!
That last little bit of damage caught me off guard. I think maybe Ray Shadow as well from max range. Sotos hits the last charge of that ability. Circular protection will go down. There's the Scarab's Blessing as well. Myth, you know, this game just starting to get scrappy.
gross.
It's just starting to get scrappy, and it's benefiting JUSTF6 when they've got the lead. These small individual fights benefiting, of course, JUSTF6, the team in the lead that are expanding on that lead, and it feels like it's Mark and the Ray Shadow are the two that just continuously are getting caught out.
Yeah, Mark is just really struggling. He wants to get involved. He realizes that he's the core of the damage for his team, but this XP deficit mid, 3 levels for iSotos, is making it so hard for him to get involved. I mean, it was the perfect combo for Mark. He hits Sotos with a Spirit Ball, lines up the ultimate as well, gets it about halfway charged, 2 ticks of Wind Gust, and Sotos just face tanks it, doesn't use any of his relics, and then turns around the fight for a double kill. It's just not enough damage output from Thunderhead.
God, that was a lot. That was a chunky last hit of that
Yeah, Thoth is good.
from Sotos.
He took it all.
What's that?
He literally tanked
I know,
everything
he took
that Mark had.
every little bit of damage. Look, I was not surprised that we've seen Thoth at all, right? I'm surprised that we've seen Thoth like a handful of times. Maybe I shouldn't be anymore. It's just a good-looking pick, as long as the setup and the positioning is around. And it looks like the style of build Myth that these mid laners have been going for, the flat pen, Divine Ruin, into Spear of Desolation, fits. Those first 2 items that fit very well for Sotos. He's off to a 401 start, second to top net worth in the game.
It's going to be hard to evaluate how strong Thoth himself is now because of just the lead that Sotos has got, right? Like, anybody 3 levels up is going to look
If
really
he wasn't
good.
Thoth,
Well, yeah,
maybe he doesn't have that lead.
Yeah, maybe not. Maybe, yeah, you're right. Maybe not. But this is some of the most confident play that I've seen from JUSTF6. Something I've said about them in the past when we were watching them through the SCC in Season 8 was that it felt like they were very trepidatious. They weren't willing to commit to some of these dives. But that seems to be rectified. I mean, watch them. They're just going.
Yeah, we're just going to go ahead and dive between a Tier 1 and a Tier 2 tower. Unfortunately, Dark Wizard left alone. There's a
Big
Scarab's
whiff.
Blessing there. But Dark Wizard realizes doesn't need to use it. A rare miss from Sotos on the final judgment might have been enough to get Dark Wizard down within kill threshold, but Scarab's Blessing again might have been there. So, I mean,
Mark
not all
might
that
just
much
be
going
dead.
by the wayside. Taunt in, Spirit Ball. There's your disengage with the CC immunity used well by Maskill. It's a River's Rebuke up that crashes down. I'm not sure the Scarab's Blessing even gets procced here. Toddy's got a kill on the back of the plate. Listimics has got one on the front, and Thunderhead are scattering. You might get 1 kill back, maybe a second, but it's a double kill from Listimics, and the 5th and final will fall here eventually in JUSTF6 in 14 minutes. We'll grab a deicide.
Man, that's tough. Lestemics just out-rotates Wangu there, is able to close gap into the back line, make sure that Mark does fall down, and so many resources were used by Thunderhead just trying to maintain Mark's life. You got the Scarab's Blessing, the Circle Protection, even Ray's Shadow drops his ultimate for Peel, and it was not
14
enough.
minutes.
JUSTF6, they're just running them down.
Myth, this might be the snowball. We have seen some snowball games this weekend.
We have.
I don't know if we've seen a 14.5-minute Fire Giant snow. I mean, I remember distinctly like a 16-minute Fire Giant one of our sets this weekend. 14.5 is the fastest FG I think we've seen so far this weekend. We're getting dangerously close to back to the drawing board territory for Thunderhead right now. You're down by 7K gold. JUSTF6 have every single tower in the game to still knock down. There's plenty of neutral gold, non-respawning gold for JUSTF6 to grab. You imagine you do a lot of work on that here on the map in just a moment.
He's dead.
Doesn't help if Ray's Shadow ticks on away, which he will, and a killing spree for Maskill. And now you're going to be defending, if you're Thunderhead, without your jungler for 30 seconds. You're about to see this gold really spool up.
Yeah, and it's not just towers that they can pick up. It's the
Oni
Oni
Fury.
Fury, or maybe even Chekio as well. Pick does connect, forces the feeds, but Chekio should be able to work his way out of there, unless they're just going to keep chasing, and it seems like that's the case.
And why not when you're as,
No way.
as far
Stop.
ahead as you are? Come on, final jump! Oh, had to be the Aegis, had to be. It needed it. You're dead otherwise. And why not? If you're Sotos, let's dash forward. Let's see what we can get done with the way that his build is and how low Chekio was in that moment. That's a kill if the Aegis and the beads don't end up getting used. That's just exerting pressure. That'll knock down the Fury. Tier 1 in mid and right both go down. A stiff breeze knocks the one over and left. And so Thunderhead, Myth, they need to do a whole lot of scaling in the next like 5 or 10 minutes.
Look, I'm all for building intrigue, Dave. I love it. I love intrigue. That's something, put that on my gravestone. Mifflin loves intrigue. But I'm not seeing it here, man. This is as close to a GG go next. 22,000 experience?
All right,
Come
you're right,
on,
okay.
bro.
You're right. There's no intrigue to be sown. You're right. Like a 13,000 gold lead, but like 45 minutes into a game.
That's
sure.
nothing.
13,000 gold when there's still 2 items to be completed in everyone's back
Dude,
pocket.
that guy doesn't even have his third item.
Can we see gold in hand? I'm curious. I'm not sure that JUSTF6.
3,300. Okay.
JUSTF6 like haven't reset since the Fire Giant. 3,500, 3,000, 2,000, 1,000 at least. All right, we are out of hand. Unlike the gold, we are out of hand. As JUSTF6 barrel down in towards the Phoenixes. Listimics seemingly healing more through the Tremors than the Tremors dealt to the Amaterasu. Chekio early ultimate here. Yeah, Maskill is going to take advantage of that every day
damage.
of the week.
Poison spread.
No actives, and that means Maskill gets the kill on a Chekio. Sotos is on a rampage. At least Wengu's able to pull back one.
Surely
we are
not.
17 minutes into this game. Where are the minion waves? That might determine whether or not JUSTF6 can end in this moment. Maybe they don't care. They're
don't.
so far ahead that the Titan will be looked at in the fastest game of the weekend as JUSTF6 steamrolls Thunderhead in game 1.
Fastest game of 2022, man. That's tough.
We had some fast games at Worlds.
Did,
I don't
17
know if
and
we
a
had
half minutes.
17 minutes. No, you're right. I'll let you have that one.
Yeah, that's tough. A lot of that went wrong very early on. You got to control some of these XP gaps before they approach the 3 to 4 level mark. But it was 14 minutes into this game. We already had 13 kills on one side. You just got to slow down that pacing, which is curious that I'm saying that about a match between 2 distinctly European-style teams,
Yep.
right? Like, these guys generally do go for that slower style. I guess that North American bloodbath, mud battle, LAN environment has kind of rubbed off on these guys.
You think Thoth is a must ban
Yeah,
after?
Thoth's good.
Yeah,
They'll
Thoth
probably ban
maybe
it.
consider either picking it or taking it away after what Sotos just did. Game number 1 goes on over to JUSTF6 in convincing fashion. Thunderhead, can you bounce back in game 2? Gotta stick around and find out.
Bands. Game number 1 of our third set is done, and the fastest game so far of our weekend only took 17 and a half minutes for JUSTF6 to dismantle Thunderhead in game number 1. And it all starts from minute 1 in the mid lane. Nothing but non-stop action starting out in the mid lane Gormizer, and then later transitioning over towards that dual lane. Constant back and forth, but man, Sodas and Maskill are really putting on a show for us here on this JUSTF6 roster.
Yeah, look, it's a constant back and forth. I'm going to say for like, what, 3 minutes? and then it's just like slowly but surely the slicing down that JUSTF6 were able to apply. I mean, they get pretty far ahead really quickly, and then they get really far ahead very quickly. To the point where, I mean, you jump in, there were 8 kills on the board total at 11 minutes, and then within 3 minutes of this, they get a Fire Giant. Within 6 minutes of this, they win the game. That's absolutely nuts to be at 11 minutes and thinking about that kind of state and knowing that that's how the game ends. But sometimes it just happens, right? Yeah, I mean, you get ahead, especially against a team you know what kind of tendencies they're going to have. You know what they're going to try to do. And so you know how they're going to react. And so you just kind of stop them. And that's what JUSTF6 did throughout all of this. I mean, Maskill, you had mentioned it, has a really good game, 5.0 KDA, all over the place on this circuit, banned for a lot of today. And I think we got to see a little bit of that reason right here is just because when in the right hands, as we've seen countless times this weekend, I would even argue, it's just such a clean amount of displacement, a lot of damage. And we even got to see the poison spread a few times, which is just absolutely devastating here for Thunderhead.
Yeah, I'm surprised with after the performance that Jengaru put on for us on this god 3 games straight that we ever get to see this god again. It is absolutely criminal the fact that this god is making her way through all of these drafts. Even with all the nerfs that have come to this god, it does not seem to have slowed down the pacing of what Circuit is able to do in the multiple roles that she's played, whether she goes to the support role or more often this week, at least specifically in this jungle spot. 6-2 and 8 for Maskill, 5-0 and 8 for Sodas in that mid lane, and then a couple of 3-0s on the side lanes there for Toddy and Lestemix. And Toddy, I mean, I was talking about how much I was interested in seeing what the Cernos could do. Didn't really matter what Cernos did. At this stage of the game, you're kind of just a hunter at this point, and he was able to put out decent damage, but Sodas and Maskill topping the charts, 11 and 10,000 damage respectively between those two players.
I mean, just being able to absolutely blow it out of the water. I mean, Chekio gets 7,000, so he's relatively close in comparison, but everybody took too much in terms of trying to get there. And you could see, I mean, Amaterasu had 5k damage. How often do you look and see 5k damage for a solo laner, period, but let alone that being the lowest on the team, and at least not within a ballpark's throw of everybody else. I mean, it's just so far behind. It's incredible to see what this team was able to do that quickly. And the question really is, what is Thunderhead going to do in order to stop that from happening again, right? That is the big question. And unfortunately, for games like that, it's actually almost more difficult to analyze because it's just like, I don't know, we got off so poorly that we can't think about what do we change late game. There wasn't even a late game for them. They were hardly out of the mid game by the time the thing ended. And so you really have to think about your first 5 minutes here, maybe even more than that, just your first 3 minutes, first 10 minutes in that area if you're Thunderhead. The draft has to come to mind in your play style. What things are you going to take? How are you going to be proactive about it? How are you going to stop this from happening for JUSTF6? I think part of it comes down to picks and bans. You can't let that circuit through. Maybe the Thoth is a problem, but I really do think stemming from the jungle is going to be something to try and control. And realistically, you just got to understand that one got out of hand real quick, and you don't think about the last 10 minutes of it. You think about how will you fix those problems.
Yeah, you kind of just toss that game back behind you and say, all right, it just went bad really quickly. We're going to move on. We're going to see what we can change up here in game number 2. I think maybe the Circuit is probably the right one to highlight. Most importantly, there's a reason that god specifically has been in the top 3 bans compared to kind of the bottom 2 bans. And if she's not banned out, she's usually one of the first gods picked up. Whereas compared to Thoth, he's been able to kind of go a little bit deeper in the picks, maybe even go as deep as into going to the second phase of bans before he finally gets either picked up or taken away there. So maybe taking away the Circuit, kind of slowing down that early aggression that came from Maskill in that jungle might be the call for Thunderhead as they get prepped up for game number 2. A lot of things on the line here, specifically for Thunderhead, because they lose this next game, they're going home. Their tournament life is over, and JUSTF6 will be one set closer to moving in towards the SPL. We got picks and bans for game number 2 right out the gate And these are going to be 3 very important bans for Thunderhead.
And again, you have to remember where in the bracket these teams are placed, right? Because you mentioned it just one step closer, but it is a very long run, right?
It's
just
one
F6.
step on a massive staircase.
Yeah, you've got, I want to say 5 sets, like at minimum, I think, including this one to get there. I don't know. I'm trying to visualize the bracket in my mind, when in reality, you can just wait till the set's done, and then we'll actually look at it and see what it is going to be for them. But it is an arduous path to try and get through for them, and it's not going to be easy. Again, winner of this goes up against Samsara. Samsara just looked pretty decent, albeit lost 2-0, but still decent up against the Oni homies. So it is going to create some interesting dynamics for whichever team is going to be able to find the control here. This is going to be a very interesting one for me, though, because again, it is the adjustments that Thunderhead make that are going to be most important to me. When you look at what Sodos was able to do, you have to start questioning yourself. Okay, was Sodos doing really well because he was Thoth, or was the Thoth doing really well because Maskill was doing really well? Did Toddy happen to have really good shots, or did Chekio not quite match up the way you wanted, right? I mean, it's not often that you see a Kernanos. I think it was 3-0 you had said as well for Toddy and Lestimics. It's not often that you get to see a Kernanos, period, let alone a Kernanos come in, and then he gets to fight from ahead, so you wonder, oh, well, maybe it was only because he had a lead, right? We don't got to ban a Cernanos. And so that's where this juggle comes through. I think Thunderhead are going to have to do a lot of heavy thinking about how they transition into this second game and how they adjust to it.
And it's one of those things, kind of talking back with the Cernos, but most importantly, talking about the lead that developed between that mid 2v2 of the jungle mid, is we didn't really get to see if there was that strength because it was Cernanos, what does Cernanos get to do? Because by the point that the Cernanos was getting into the team fights, they were already ahead at that point. So when you have a Hunter who's ahead with a team that's ahead, he just gets to throw out his abilities, do his own thing. When you have that massive AoE with the Polymorph out there, with that Wild Hunt ultimate, it's insane how much space he can control. But I think that mid 2v2 is really where a lot of it kind of spiraled in this first game. We'll see if that gets changed up in game number 2 between them. To note, for those who missed day 1, Samsara, who is waiting for the winner of this match, they're the ones who sent Thunderhead down into the losers bracket in day number 1, and JUSTF6 fell to Duck Club later on in that same day yesterday to make their way down here. So if Thunderhead can manage to get a win here and get a win in game number 3, they'll get a faded rematch against Samsara. Well, one of them will go home and one of them will move on. Or can JUSTF6 be the European squad to finally try and take down Samsara and see which of those two is actually the bigger powerhouse?
I got distracted. I'm going to be completely honest. Only because I saw, so one of the players, I can't even remember which one it was wearing a Ramones hoodie, and it stood out to me, one of my dad's favorite bands, and it just occurred to me that a majority of them probably died before he was even born. So I got a little, I spiraled a little bit, J-Mac. I'm going to be completely honest with you here. I absolutely spiraled there, but it was worth it for that tidbit of information. Chat, I hope you use that for good. I don't know what you learned out of it, other than that I like the Ramones, and so does he.
And AC/DC, we learned that earlier too.
Like some, I don't have like a lot of AC/DC, but like the standard. Every song that AC/DC plays that everyone knows, which is very hard to tell because they play like the same 3 chords in a lot of them, those are the ones that I really like. And I've never burgeoned beyond that.
Well,
is that the right worst use of that word? Let's find that out.
I'm
going to spiral again.
Well, here we go. While Gore looks up some dictionary definitions and we take a break from musical theory class here, let's instead take a look at
let's do music theory, baby. Let's go.
This might not be the place to do the music theory. Let's talk about drafting theory instead here. JUSTF6 and Thunderhead, game number 2. Thunderhead will take second pick this time around. It'll be Izanami, Gilgamesh, Hoyi once again for JUSTF6. But this time, Thunderhead are going to ban the 2 big problems in the first 2 picks that were from JUSTF6 last time in that Amaterasu and the Umoja. And then a Soul right behind, so that does leave Cirquet up again.
All right, so let's talk about how there are no wrong notes in Jazz. No, I'm sorry. Anyway, yeah, no, it's going to be fun to watch. I like the adjustments. I think getting rid of the Amaterasu is going to be a big opener for you. Umoja as well, getting taken off the board. But realistically, you haven't changed as much. It's not necessarily targeting what was problematic. So JUSTF6 have the opportunity to go back and run back what was just wildly successful for them, but also with this Fenrir have an opportunity to change pretty much everything about their style. This could be theoretically support or jungle, right? And so that opens up a lot of conversations about whether or not this is going to be a Cabrakan with the Erlong Shin. Probably not Cabrakan jungle, just based on where we've seen Erlong, but I've seen weirder things. You could get double assassins, and JUSTF6 play as fast and as aggressive as they just did. Those 2 picks are enough to scare me.
Fenrir Serket versus Cabrakan Erlong Shen for the top 2s of both of these teams. Hovering Cernanos at the moment will be locked in. I wasn't necessarily expecting
top 3
Cernanos to be
Cernanos is
top
not-
3'd, because again, we were talking about how we didn't really think that the Cernanos was really that big of a problem. He kind of just existed throughout the early stages and then got to kind of be a hunter as it went through because his team was already so far ahead. But it seems that JUSTF6 do hold some value in this god.
Yeah.
Thoth is still up, and Thunderhead could take that one away, put it over in their mid laner's hands, keep making sure that Sodas doesn't get the opportunity to play it. We'll see what they go with their 3rd pick.
Now, I like Cernanos.
I love him.
I don't think competitively that he is high enough on the bracket that I'm worried about getting him, or that he's going to get banned away from me. Like, I think if I was thinking I want to play Thoth again, that's probably where I put him. And so in my mind, this is like the open saying to admit we don't care whether or not we get him in mid again. In fact, you can ban whatever you want in mid. We're going to have enough mages available to us. Because if you are banning Cernanos, even if
There's a
it was
problem.
just a 3-0, yeah, if you're Thunderhead and you're banning Cernanos, something's gone wrong. And it's definitely going to be a lot higher level than anything that's going to be happening in the game. And so I do think that's one that is trying to hold on to a little bit closer what the picks are going to be, because you've not really revealed anything. I mean, Fenrir, Serket, I mean, you just played Serket, so that's kind of expected, especially with how well it performed. Fenrir has just been doing well all weekend, and admittedly, Cernanos was just kind of there. He did his job, and he did it well throughout that last game. And so I'm expecting something interesting coming out of mid or solo here to try and deal with the rest of the team. Also, maybe to try and counter out what Thunderhead are going to pick up when the top 4 are revealed.
I think it's big to note here that it doesn't seem that Mark wants to play this Thoth, because they do have 1st pick coming out of the bans, but instead it's Thunderhead who banned the Thoth away. So that's a little telling to me that Mark doesn't want to play this god necessarily, or they've got something else in their bag of tricks here. It is their 3 frontliners first picked up here by Thunderhead, the Cabrakan Erlong, and now a Cerberus. And JUSTF6, they'll ban their hunters away at least, since Cernados has already been locked in. They don't need to worry about anything else over towards that dual lane, assuming that this Fenrir is going to be making his way towards support, though. Fenrir or Serket could go there, kind of flexible between the 2 of them, but after the performance we saw last time, would not be surprised to see Serket make her way back in jungle. And then a tier ban here. Probably one of the more interesting ones, because it doesn't feel as if this is necessarily a tier meta. It feels like maybe more of kind of a respect ban here.
Yeah, honestly, it's something that maybe, and this might be like specific to like European players, and maybe like the further west in Europe, the more likely it is they are to play tier. Because I feel like that's where we've seen it. Like, who else is playing tier right now that we can think of, at least in this tournament? And the only person that comes to mind is Ducky. Yeah, right. So it's like it does feel like something that you would know if you're Thunderhead, because you have been playing against this team for a long time, and you have to recognize, depending on where they're going with their picks, Cupid potentially being one of them, not necessarily playing into tier incredibly well when you think about his passive, what he's able to do there, and the disruption he could have. A really solid solo laner to play into a comp like this. So I actually kind of like it, even though we don't see him a whole ton.
I'll be honest, I really love this Cupid pick here. I mean, Fenrir and Serket, 2 of their abilities require the ability to be able to move.
Yep.
And this cripple from Fields of Love is going to shut both of those down instantly. Cernanos, no CC immunity, so he's going to be forced to use his purification beads if he gets caught in the middle of that Fields of Love. So I really like this Cupid pick
Make
here.
some mayhem.
But this is a god I'm surprised we haven't been seeing a little bit more of in the mid lane, Discordia.
Yeah.
Locked in for JUSTF6, a god who really has been standing the test of time as far as balances have been concerned. She really hasn't had any buffs or nerfs outside of a couple initial ones during her like earlier release time. And since then, she's still been seeing some kind of mixed popularity.
And honestly, really fun in that zombies mode we played during Finchmas.
Very fun.
Very fun to throw out Discordia. But no, yeah, she does bring a lot to the table. A lot of good CC, good damage. And realistically, that's what it is, right? You're not looking at her as any of the burst mage, secure mages that you would typically have around objectives. You're not looking at her as like, similar to like Merlin as an objective burner. Soul falls into that category as well. She really is I'm going to fight you and I'm going to kill you, and then we'll just get whatever's left afterward. And And so I really like that. A good strife can change a fight. You hit 2-3 people with that thing, and all of a sudden your team is just going to be able to roll over them. Even though it's just such a small amount of time for that CC, it really does set things up. That in conjunction with like Fenrir stun, the Circuit taunt, and then just Odin existing in the lobby, I think it's going to be a fun fight for JUSTF6, although not an easy one. Mainly because that Cupid, as you had highlighted, but I mean, Serb, Kabrakan, Erlong, like, that's a really solid comp for Thunderhead.
Not just the Cupid, to finally round out the composition here is going to be Chalk. So 4 gods that start with a C.
Yeah,
and
that's
then
what I
one
was
with an
thinking.
E. I just kind of noticed that we do kind of have that nice little tidbit there. But Chalk, the final lock-in for Thunderhead versus the Odin solo lane. So we kind of get some old school matchups there as far as the solo is concerned. Chalk, we've been seeing kind of
Chalk
this
and
more
Odin.
damage style build. You go for a tad bit of defense right away, but then like Transcendence, Caduceus Shield, Breastplate of Valor, those seem to be kind of 3 big potent items on this guy.
Yeah, and honestly, I think it's going to be interesting to see how that deals with and how that plays up against the Odin. We've seen a lot of Odin, specifically like early on, he can usually get some good control. He has got pretty decent damage. The stun is good setup. He has anti-heal later on, and it makes it really fun, but Chalk can also withstand the tell of time here, and I think is going to be able to control a little bit of that lane. It's just going to be a fun matchup.
It's sure to be a fun matchup, and we are going to have to take an extra little moment to get that match set up. So we're going to take it to a quick break, and then we'll be back with the start of game number 2. everybody, and welcome back. We're getting ready to jump in to game number 2 between Thunderhead and JUSTF6. JUSTF6 did win game number 1, and so now Thunderhead have to prove themselves here. This is their last opportunity to get that win. Otherwise, they're going to be going home to be JUSTF6 moving on. J-Mac and Gore here. We get one final look here at the drafts before we jump in, though.
I'm going to say that didn't do their win enough justice. They didn't just win. They won in 17 and a half minutes.
Yeah, that's
nuts.
That's kind of crazy.
That's too much.
That is
too little.
Definitely one of the fastest competitive games that we've had in recent times.
I think it's faster than all of the SPL games last year. I think the fastest SPL game we had last year was 17:42 or something like that.
Yeah, and that was
I
can't remember.
My notes are right here.
I think that was the
Titans
Titans who ended up getting that one.
You know what? I'll tell you.
Kind of crazy, but looking back here,
It was
the
the
drafts,
Warriors beating the Scarabs, 17 minutes 43 seconds. That's why we take notes, everybody.
There we go. He's got it on the nice little. I'm assuming that's on one of your multitude of spreadsheets that you have
maybe.
available to you. So our fastest game since season 8 at least started up here. Very impressive and really just dominant performance out of JUSTF6. But do you think, Gormizer, with the draft that Thunderhead have put together here in Game 2, that they've got a good shot at extending this to Game 3?
I don't know. I think their top 3 really do create the opportunities for them. Cabrakan, Erlong, Cerberus really could create, set up a lot. And you had mentioned it, but this Cupid is a really good pick into the Fenrir and their Circuit in terms of control, and I'm excited to see what he's going to be able to accomplish. The problem is that they never got to that theoretical space last game. There was a lot that could have gone right in game number 1, and they were so far behind by the time they got to the point where it could happen that it didn't actually come to fruition. I think that, along with, the chalk, I need to see the first 5 minutes out of them before I could say anything about the comp.
It kind of just dawned on me here for a moment, Gormizer. Who's the mid laner? Because we have Cerberus, we have Erlong Shen, jungle. We've also seen Shock mid before, so we'll have to see if it's going to be Cabrakan or if it's going to be Chalk. It's gonna be a coin toss here. I would personally like to see Chalk. I think that would be maybe a little bit more of a spicy option. But there are just I'm not going to say so many. There are 2 main possibilities here. So let's see which one it is, Gormizer. What do you
I don't know. I was going to say, I'm feeling Chalk mid. Let's give them some limelight.
Well, let's delay no further. Let's hop on to game number 2 and see what is going mid lane for Thunderhead.
JUSTF6 in game number 1 grabs the fastest game of the week. And Thunderhead has got to bounce back. And they're doing it, Miff, with a Chalk mid. They're going to send Cabrakan over to support Erlong Shen in jungle. And a Cerberus over in the solo lane. Give me the old rundown here, buddy. Chalk mid.
No, you know what, Dave? I feel like you're always asking me questions.
Yeah, that's literally my job.
I want to ask you a question.
Okay.
What do you think of Chalk mid?
Here's the thing about how Chalk is the best character in the game.
Is that so?
Yep.
You're doing this is an F dot bit.
You asked me a question.
And
I'm answering
and now F dot's answering.
What? All right,
go on.
Chalk is the best character in the game.
Go ahead.
So he's got an axe, right? And that's already, the biggest support to his. But he also does a little bit of everything, right?
You go on.
He's got a heal.
He sure does. Self heal.
He's got a self heal. Very important. He's got a teleport, conditional teleport.
Help him out,
right?
Doug.
What do you mean, help me out? I'm literally just listing all the cool things that he does. Doug, I don't want to go back to Chalk. Don't show me his abilities. I'm not going to tell you the numbers and stuff, but I'm going to tell you why he's so good.
Yep.
He's got a slow.
He sure does.
Right? He's got a big old circular ultimate.
Oh, yeah.
And you know how long that silence is?
A long time.
Long. Wait, pull it up and I'm going to look away. I promise I'm looking away.
I'm pretty sure it's 2 seconds. Oh,
no,
3 seconds. Wow.
No, it's 3, which is long.
That is actually super long.
And so, no, I don't think Chalk is the best character in the game. I do think that damage Chalk is a lot of fun to play. And so now, Miff, I'm actually going to ask you if you think there's some value here.
Yeah, I mean, Chalk in mid is going to have decent clear potential. Obviously, the bully potential is there as well. Every time he connects an axe, he's going to take upwards of like 1/6 of Isotos' HP. So I think that there is value to it, and it's incredibly hard to gank because generally in mid, your best avenue for a jungler to gank is you applying poke. You're not applying poke to a Chalk. He's just going to sustain it all back up, which means that every single bit of poke that he applies to you is going to find more value.
Yeah, I'm not sure, Mark. Well, now he's taking damage from Sotos' initial poke. No, I don't think so. Luckily, the axe gets dodged out. So a sort of soft gank from Maskill, who's back on the Circuit. Put some discomfort towards Mark, but Mark just happy to walk back into lane. you start to diversify your damage still, though, Myth, because you put magical damage over in solo.
He might
Can
be
Raise
dead.
Shadow close the gap pin? No good. But Maskill is on the wrong side of things here.
He might
Dash
be
good,
out.
jump good. And it looks like Maskill will survive. First blood falling just short. And Thunderhead will have to go searching somewhere else.
Man, massive drop there from Ray Shadow. Great jukes from Maskill, credit where it's due. But had that pin connected, that would have been Maskill's life immediately. Luckily, Ray Shadow always has his head on a pivot, so he's able to shift up and go ahead and steal away a ton of these camps. But it's not really the most valuable at this point. When you take away an enemy's camp, you get a little bit less gold, a little bit less XP than as if you were farming your own. So it's just about making sure that you are able to confirm your own.
Rotwin on back to mid lane. Mark, hey, you know why Chalk's so good? He's got a teleport map. He can get out of stuff like, unlucky.
Hold on. We've seen people get away from this.
Oh, come on, no chance.
Yeah, he's out.
That's a big, well, that's Dark Wizard.
No, he's vibing.
No, that's Chalk. That's Chalk, the best character in the game. If that's not Chalk, he doesn't live. If that's anyone else, for sure. Mark survives the mid lane pressure.
He's
This
like
time
full
it's
HP.
JUSTF6, who's nearly getting a kill, but Mark is able to walk on away. The mobility of Chalk can't be understated. But now, what is happening in mid? It's a level 3/4, 3v3. And everyone gets down low, but nobody ends up dying.
Man, it is so hard to shut down a Chalk. I was talking about it earlier. Every bit of poke you put into him, even if it's near lethal poke, is going to be resustained relatively quickly. Because he's landing against a Discordia, he's able to auto-attack the wave pretty consistently, which means that a lot of his abilities are going to just be free. When you stack up Chalk's passive by landing these auto-attacks on enemies, it makes your next ability cost 0 mana, which is why we've seen Mark so successful in just consistently applying poke. Always has that rain dance around him. And it's made it very difficult for JUSTF6 to find their footing, to find their aggression. Every single bit of damage they put in a Chalk better be lethal. If you're not killing them, you're wasting mana.
So Mark has survived thanks to the fantastic kit of Chalk up to this point. But, you know, from what we've seen so far, of course, early in the game, you're just going to see what Maskill and Sotos can send towards Mark. When Listimic starts to rotate in, Rotwin as well, Myth, you know, Mark goes Blink early on here. You know, can use the ultimate to you know, buy yourself some time if you're on this Chalk as well. But there's going to be plenty of lockdown and CC flying towards Mark as this game goes on. That's going to be important to follow along with. Ray Shadow, no good on the taunt back in. Listimic and Maskill will jump on out of that blue buff pit. Here's a jump in from Rotwin, but Chekio just immediately drops down the Fields of Love, dashes away, and he's feeling just fine.
Yeah, really good pathing there from Chekio. That was the only way for him to avoid Rotwin, the way this Fenrir had walked, circling his way back in. A little bit dangerous, luckily. Rotwin had already used Brutalize on the buff itself, so not much risk there for Chekio going forward. Losing out on your own purple, though, not a great start to this lane. Take a peek at the build path on Mark and mid, just because we're talking about the Chalk so much. My man's going for damage, and damage is essentially converted health for Chalk because his heal scales off of power. So once he has this Transcendence stacked up, he's not only going to have a ton of damage output, but also a lot of effective HP and some decent CDR.
I love the little chunk damage that you get right now. It's going to build up as the game goes on. That's a good taunt re-engage from Maskill. Sotos walking out of the fight, and walk out he will. Ragnarok, I was going to say, could pull Mark back in, but I'm not sure that's where Rotwin wants to put him. His mid laner is low. Mark teleports back into the walls that his own Cabrakan had put there. Rotwin locked in place, but that's a massive strife and a huge re-engage from Maskill as well. Disastrous for Thunderhead unless they're able to make some of these kills stick, and Chekio sure will. The rotation back in evens things up 2 for 2.
Man, I got whiplash trying to follow that fight.
Yeah,
It
we're
was
even.
everywhere. 2 for 2 trade, completely even experience in gold. But maybe Chekio could steal away a red buff here.
There you go.
And Mark, somehow, some way, is able to utilize Blink to go over the Cabrakan's wall, which baited out Toddy GR's ultimate. He uses it inside of the Cabrakan cage, misses it completely. Wild plays for Mark to maintain his own life. For the, what was that, the third time he's like limped out of a battle, and we're only 6 minutes into this game so far. Both teams swinging for the fences.
Yeah, with the way that I talk about Chalk better win this game. You know? At least for now. Feeling vindicated in my praise of Chalk. Clearly don't think he's the best character in the game, but maybe some value here.
Why do you say clearly? Like, what's your beef with Chalk?
That he's obviously not the best character in the
Well,
game.
then who
right
is?
now. I don't know. There's plenty of debate.
Yeah, I suppose Chalk's a part of it, probably.
No, I don't think Chalk is part of the debate for the best character in the game.
You heard it here first, guys. Dave hates Chalk.
Do you think Chalk is the best character in the game?
He's in the conversation.
No, he's not. He is in the conversation of being good right now for Thunderhead, and that is the truth. Wengu over in the I talked earlier about how you put Chalk in mid. You got to diversify your damage styles a little bit. We know what Cerberus can do on his own. Apparently, I'm not going to get a chance to talk about that as Fields of Love goes down. Wengu, speak of the devil, has TP'd on the left, and that is going to be Ragnarok out. So Fields of Love exchanged for Ragnarok. Taunt
Jumped
in from Ray Shadow, won't connect. Sotos makes a big play already. Chalk axe for the execute, and Mark from range will finally grab the kill onto Sotos. And we got Chalk mid on the board.
And with Wengu on this side of the map already, having found the pick in mid, I think Thunderhead really should either look to chase out these kills or get to the gold.
Best Toddy can do now is knock down those walls, back away. Stygian Torment for the CC immunity, but Rotwin brought right back into the fray. A jump on out from the Sven rear. We'll delay things a little bit further, but watch out. Mass kill on this Circuit has been a nuisance
Massive
all
ult.
set long. Big silence from Mark. Slows down the re-engage from JUSTF6, but out to disengage. As
Rip.
Rotwin's got the heart bomb, and
Good
Checkio's
stun.
got the kill. Fantastic stun from Wengu, and the teleport pays off in the long run. We got to get this kill on a Toddy as well. Definitely the Sternanos is gone unless Wengu from range can get the stun, and Toddy will accept his fate. And things are getting messy on the back end of this fight.
Legitimate motion sickness as I try and
I
follow
know.
this engagement. Dark Wizard now with no mana, isolated in the back line, sacrifices himself to make sure that Checkio is able to get out of this fight. Lestimix credit for this one. And at the end of the day, after all this scrapping, 5 and 5, 10 kills in 9 minutes. Gold experience might as well not exist because we don't care about it. It's dead even.
I'm thinking like all of JUSTF6 is dead, and then the camera pans over.
And
there's like
everybody's
5
dead.
of them chasing down Thunderhead. In chaos on the backside of the jungle. Respawn timer's low enough that everyone gets back onto the map relatively quickly, and wouldn't you guess it, we are still fighting. Wengu stunned down by the blue buff. Should have his leap. Yep, there it is, used for disengage. This is going to be a 3 versus 2. Rotwin and Ray Shadow rotating late into this fight. That's a nice 9 turns blessing. Have missed up to this point. Look
What
out
is
for the
going
heal
on?
on the other end of this fight, Miff. Your guess is as good as mine, but it's a killing spree for Mass Kill. And one of these junglers is swinging. The other needs a little bit of help.
Yeah, they're both level 9, though. I mean, 3-0 for Mass Kill, equivalent level to the 0 and 3 Ray Shadow on the other side. Even the builds, largely the same here. I mean, Erlang Shen's going to fall off as the game goes on. Mannequins is an item that gets less and less value until you're able to upgrade it a lot later on.
Toddy's about to get dove. Watch.
No way, right?
Look, Mark is coming over here. You got the teleport.
Oh my God.
You got Dark
Good eyes.
Wizard. No blink, though, for Dark Wizard. Teleport, of course, for Mark. Toddy.
He's level 6,
Oh,
dude.
he turns around. Oh, the timing of that is just hilarious. The way Mark turns around, he doesn't have the damage
Little more.
just yet.
I had to
And the
juke.
apple is out, and Toddy will live. But uh-oh, that's opened the door for JUSTF6 to re-engage on the back of the fight. Brutalize, serious. Sotos with the strife doing massive things for JUSTF6 on the re-engage. Mark into the Draugr pit. And looks like we'll be able to back away. One last auto attack, and it's the dive that's not to be. Rotwin likely falls, but it's a 3 for 1, and I think JUSTF6 will take that. Miff, I'll let you take this one. Be going for a minute.
The Ray Shadow turns into the turtle. He's
Yeah, there we
chasing
go.
out Lestimix throughout the map. Good ghastly breath. God, it's so stinky. Slows down Lestimix, but it's not enough. The Gungnir's Might
Bro.
slows him down, and now it's Wengu in some trouble. Mass Kill trying to put his 4th on the board. Puts the poison onto Wengu, who is limping away. One more tick would have done it, but it's not good. Wengu survives. Mass Kill gets nothing, and Lestimix also walks away.
You know what? That's not bad, Miff. I gotta watch it.
Thanks, man.
I think you lost me when in the middle of the fight you said, God, it's so stinky.
You seen that breath, bro? It is ghastly.
You're right. I don't know. All right, let me regather myself here. This is just back and forth. Feels like in every single fight, somebody is getting away with a sliver of HP. That second engagement there, everyone got away with a sliver of HP. In moments like this, Smith, I think with all the chaos that's been happening, we take a minute to regroup and really check in on where things are. It's almost exactly a 2,000 gold lead for JUSTF6, 1,000 in the experience department, relatively spread out. And that's as much of a recap as you're going to get because we are fighting yet again. Beads used by Sotos. The tremors down, but up and over the wall goes Mark. The apple for the CC immunity does well for Sotos. but only buys some time, and it is a dive and a kill for Thunderhead. Rotwin's already used Ragnarok, and so Dark Wizard will walk on away. But watch out for Mass Kill. Doesn't have Blink, but can jump in.
Lestemic's cage is up, so we could find somebody maybe. There's some lockdown potential. Wengu probably not the best target for that ingression, so that should spell the end of this engagement. And now the plan is clear. It's fight. It's fight again in the duo.
Yeah, that's clearly the plan. Both ultimates used on the left. Jump in, full rune stun from Rotwin, and Brutalize seals the deal. No, we're good. Teams are separated here. It looks like JUSTF6. Luckily, there's no Fury for JUSTF6 to take down. Without Czechia, would have been a fantastic objective. But that kill, some breathing room now for Toddy. Levels still even over in ADC. 1 level lead for Sotos, though, Miff. It has been a rough game for this Discordia, but still been able to find a bunch of kills, couple of assists in these fights, despite dying 3 times. Well underway in the popular flat pen build with Divine Ruin, Spirit Desolation online. So that damage is going to start to stack up.
I'm surprised that Sotos has only died 3 times. The composition that Thunderhead has picked up is abuse the mid laner through and through. Mark, Dark Wizard, Ray Shadow, and Wengu are a steadfast frontline spearhead that are just going to keep on holding the W key because there really aren't many tools for Sotos to self-peel there.
Yeah, good luck, Miff. We are fighting yet again. Apple just wide. Strife is good. Now you're starting to see, when I say some of that chunk damage, the flat pen damage, those first 2 items, just a rotation from Strife and the one from Discordia. Unruly Magic able to chunk down Mark's health bar. But now you look back at Mark and he's sustaining it right back on up. JUSTF6 turn their eyes towards fighting a neutral objective. It's the Pyromancer. And I don't think Thunderhead have the legs to get in range. Please. Okay, thank you, JUSTF6. Grab it down. If Thunderhead were in range, there actually might be a fight on the other end of things. Good wall from Dark Wizard. Forces the Brutalize out from Rotwin. 9 turns Blessing. It's perfect. The knockups were there on the other end as well. And Ray Shadow finds a great engage. But Lestemic's with the cage. 2 more people survive with no HP.
What is going on?
At the end of one of these fights, Miff, it feels like, I mean, we have 17 kills anyway in 14 minutes. It feels like, with the amount of low health bars, we should be at like 25 kills. We're 1v1ing on the duo lane. Yet again, Fields of Love is great.
That's not a 1v1.
is winning this one. Lestemic's is going to make it a 2 versus 1. And you'd think the Cupid is going to be hard-pressed to get out of this one. Certainly now that Mass Kill is here, and it's Mass Kill who finally
keep
completes
going.
the fighting. No, it's your turn, Miff. Go ahead.
Ray Shadow turns into a turtle yet again. Dave hates saying it, so I have to. It's a kill for Rotwin as the Ray Shadow joins his teammates in the Shadow Realm. Can Dark Wizard escape? Find out on the next episode. Never mind, find out now. He's going to die to the poison, and it spreads to 1. It actually doesn't. I made that up. It's Mark now, the target of the aggression from Rotwin. Tons of damage output, but Lestemic's everywhere on the map, including here, has shown up.
And it's a Stygian Torment right back through Miff when Cage from Lestemic's is there. And with a death cry, the Tier 1 tower sends a shot towards Mark. And Mark does finally die, but it breaks down to a 4 for 1 when it's all said and done for JUSTF6. And that's still translating to about a 3,000 gold lead or so, 4,000 in the experience department. It is a steady trend upward for JUSTF6. And so through all of the chaos, one team is clearly benefiting, and it's the blue side putting Thunderhead on the verge of being knocked out.
Yeah, JUSTF6, it feels like these guys have a mutual agreement that there's just going to be a lot of fighting in this game, but JUSTF6 is sneakily just kind of like between the lines saying, all right, but maybe we farm a little bit.
We move on.
Yeah, maybe we get a little bit of objective play. Maybe we teleport around the map. Lestemic's in particular has been utilizing the teleport incredibly well, the persistent teleport, to just get over towards the duo lane, get involved, immediately rotate back over towards solo. He hasn't really sacrificed too much in farm either. I mean, Wengu has rotated as well, similarly, but not nearly as much. And he's still equivalent level. Both soul laners sitting at level 15. And honestly, the power curve for both of these squads has taken a major hit because nobody's farming experience for the most part. It's a lot of gold. It's a lot of fighting. Primal Fury could close up that gap.
Another team fight, but this one looks like it's over an objective. Ultimates flying left and right. A cage on the other side of the wall, and you just gotta look at the health, and it's all in favor of JUSTF6. Toddy has found the first. Sotos, of course, being chased down by Mark. We've seen that plenty. Masskill jumps back in despite low HP. Heart Bomb is out onto Lestemic's. It might buy some time for Dark Wizard, but it only hands the double kill over to Toddy. We've got a 1v1 on right. We are separated, even in a team fight. Things can't stay normal as Rotwin and Mark just wailing away on one another. Mark likely to teleport over the wall. We got a 1v1 happening on the left of this fight as well. And it looks like a 2 for none is how JUSTF6 will end.
Maybe Maskill in some trouble here. Chekio hovering nearby. I think Maskill just showed himself on the minion wave, so Chekio should know he's there, certainly now. Dash away, you're in Toddy GR's territory.
There we go, Listimics jumps back in. We'll finish off the kill onto Chekio. Wengu leapt on as well, and JUSTF6 just have the numbers. Nice turnaround by Wengu. All the low health bars able to be capitalized on, but it's an unstoppable masked kill. That's 707, and the Primal Fury will go over to JUSTF6 as well. Unless the now respawned
We're back.
Ray Shadow is able to make
No
a
way.
play. Thunderhead do it. And now we're gonna fight on the corpse of the Fury. Toddy snags the first. Dark Wizard sends his ultimate out.
Triple stun.
Triple stun from Dark Wizard. I'm not sure it will do more than buy time, and a double kill from Toddy after the Fury falls.
Hey, the Gold Fury going the way of Thunderhead helps out a fair bit, but trading out your lives, you can
know
see
what?
it reflected on the charts.
You know what this
Doesn't
reminds
change
me
it.
of, Myth? It's like a hockey fight where it all starts like everyone kind of groups up.
Yep.
But then by the end of it, the camera has to pan out to the entire ice rink because like the goalies
It's a
are
brawl.
beating on one another on one side of the ice rink. 2 guys are fighting over in like the corner on the other side. You got like 4 or 5 people off the bench in the middle of the ice that are all like it's just like starts to scatter and everyone just fighting one another everywhere. But again, it's all benefiting JUSTF6. And though everyone from Thunderhead is on the map, none of them grouped up around the Fire Giant. And what
Wait,
should
can
be
Wengu do it again?
Yeah, I know. Can we get another steal?
No way.
No, not this time. JUSTF6 confirm the FG. And likely a kill onto Wengu here, who
5-man.
massive Stygian Torment. It's fun to see, but doesn't mean anything as JUSTF6 continue to snowball things here. And you imagine the end of this game just over the horizon.
Oh, I'm not sure. There's still so many towers standing between JUSTF6 and the Phoenixes. The fights.
I love intrigue. I love intrigue.
Dude, it's massive. Intrigue is the spice of life, and you know what? It's
You're
here.
actually right. Though there's been all of this chaos, it's like half the gold lead as it was in game number 1.
Yeah.
It's a 21-9 game with like a 5,000 gold lead instead of like 12,000 or whatever it was. So more intrigue at least.
Yeah, by the
than game
time
number 1.
last time, we were talking about like next game's P's and B's. We were in like
You
a
and
pod
I were
screen.
chilling in the
green room.
in the green room, and Gore
Yeah.
and J-Mac were getting ready to do their thing on desk. And so, hope alive still for Thunderhead to stay in this weekend, just because the game still goes on. But JUSTF6 in a power position,
He
a
can't
kill
keep
on a
doing it.
Chekio here would be difficult. The persistent TP myth. You're right. It's paying off for the solo laner of JUSTF6. Chekio has just been sat on 2-5-1 on the Cupid, and JUSTF6 with 2 minutes. You know what? They're probably begging Thunderhead to JUSTF6 at this point. We were just jumping on top of you guys. Come on, just look at our namesake. Get us out of here and on to the next round. Thunderhead don't want to give up their chances at a shot in the SPL, and a dive onto Toddy.
could be
It's a
big.
great way to start that. Aegis gets used, but Toddy is going to dash right on out. Maskill re-engages onto Mark, and here's the jump in from Rotwin as well. Brutalize finds its way right into the taunt, though, goes Maskill as Ray Shadow has found an engage on the backside of this fight. Wengu gets a shutdown on a Maskill. That's massive, but here comes the cavalry with JUSTF6.
Ray Shadow nearly makes it away, but Isotos crushes hope this time around, roots him in place and sends him back to base in a coffin. Wengu as well, likely going to join his teammates, but a little bit slower because this guy's tanky, maybe even not at all. JUSTF6 have not shot away from a singular fight this time around, and the same can be said of Thunderhead. 24-10 over double the kills favoring JUSTF6, but you cannot accuse Thunderhead of even showing a moment's worth of fear. These guys are digging in their heels literally everywhere on the map.
Yeah.
We'll see if they can dig them in here at the Phoenix.
Mark is 2 levels ahead of Sotos, but a few kills and a few assists down. Need to lean on your mid laner here in a moment like this. If you are Thunderhead, Listimics will grab the kill onto Wengu, though. The cage buying itself some value. Killing spree for Sotos as the strife yet again hits Pater. 3-man knockup and silence from Mark, but there is too much damage from Toddy on the back end of this fight. Ray Shadow, he's respawned. He's able to find a kill, but Sotos is still on the map, and that means there is a threat. And JUSTF6 is capitalizing. But these respawns, the health bars, the newly bought items, maybe giving Thunderhead a chance.
Yeah, here's an awesome thing about being level 13. You respawn really fast. Dark Wizard dies, respawns, and he's gonna come back yet again to make sure that his base remains uncracked here. Only one tier 2 talent still available for JUSTF6 to pick up, but I think they'd rather have a couple more kills. Maskill, Rotwin, and Sotos heading up the middle of the map. I don't love their odds in a siege right now. Only 40 seconds left on Fire Giant, and Masskill does not have it. Might as well reset, spend up all that gold you've acquired from picking up neutral objectives, these permanent objectives in mid as well. Thunderhead, they're still largely behind in gold. I think this next Fire Giant very well could spell the end of this match.
I will say I appreciate you look at the player cams for Thunderhead a moment ago. They're all laughing, having a good time, realizing that while there is still hope, it's going to be difficult to come back into a game like this. But you start to look at some of the levels, some of the items. You know, we're getting closer to level 20 on our carries. Our items not wildly far behind, though. the upgraded Rod of Tahuti into a full buy Obshard, if my eyes are correct, for Sotos there is a ridiculous power spike for this Discordia, the Calamitous Rod of Tahuti. Send that Meteor on down for a little extra damage. So you got flat pen, you got percent pen on the other end. And Mark, the mid laner that you needed in these fights, won't be there. This could be the final engage of Thunderhead's chances this week. A Stygian Torment connects on the 2, but the onslaught of JUSTF6 won't be denied. 3 members of Thunderhead, rather. The last one's alive, make it 2. And now Wengu and the Ray Shadow will watch all 5 members of JUSTF6 barrel in towards their Titan.
Only one bird needs to go down before that Titan can get pulled out. Ray Shadow only has to buy 25 more seconds for its mark to rejoin the fight. Dark Wizard may have died nearly 30 seconds afterward, but again, man's level 14. He might respawn, man. I don't know.
Now we're standing up. We're getting out of our seats before Thunderhead. We know that JUSTF6 will knock out Thunderhead from the Season 9 SPL play-in tournament. JUSTF6, the team that is stuck together, will move on to the next round of the lowers bracket with a 2-0 win over Thunderhead.
Congratulations to JUSTF6, and I'm sorry, Thunderhead, that your run had to end like this, but it was an entertaining game, to say the least, right? I mean, I'm entertained. How many kills was that?
Giving him some cheers there
like
on the player cams.
Good sports.
A fun way to, you know, we talked in the interview in the pregame. These two teams very familiar with one another. You know,
wasn't there some beef? I feel like there was some beef or something.
Oh, I got the opposite.
Oh,
I thought they were all
like
you know,
boys?
like scrim partners. They're like boys, and
It's because I treat my friends bad. I thought it was beef.
And that's true. You do.
All right,
JUSTF6 and Thunderhead, 2 teams that are familiar with one another. It's unfortunate, I imagine, in their minds they had to meet in a knockout round game, but it's JUSTF6 who grab the 2-0 win. I think you're right, Miff. That's like a 40-something kill game in 23 minutes. We were brawling from minute 1. In 23 minutes, I'm not sure anyone reached level 20. I think we were just fighting. I don't know if we were doing any farming. JUSTF6 in our 3rd set of the day and our first knockout set of the weekend will send Thunderhead packing, but will move themselves on. We got one more set just over the horizon. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, Desk will break this one down.
Lasted a little bit longer, and there were definitely way more kills in it this time around, but the result ended up being the same. It's just F6 with the 2-0 victory over Thunderhead, and it'll be just F6 moving on in the bracket, and Thunderhead, unfortunately, their time in this tournament will end here. It's J-Mac Tucker and Gormizer here to attempt to break down the chaos.
I can break it down.
That was in game 2, and I'll let you do that because you are much better at that than I.
Well, here's the fun part about this. This breakdown is actually really simple.
All right.
It's a downside because we have a lot of desk time to fill, but realistically, the breakdown is they fought a lot.
They did do that.
And that was the game. They fought a lot, and Just F6 won a majority of those fights. And they look pretty good doing it. I don't know. After game 1, game 2, again, like you said, lasts a little longer, but we jump into this, and there's already 22 kills on the board. That is the level that this game came through. I didn't even notice that Toddy had a 7.75 KDA
Yeah, that's wild.
throughout that one. I mean, with how much fighting there was going on, the death was just around the corner at any given time for pretty much everybody. It is insane to be able to come out of there with a small amount of deaths and, of course, a lot of kills being scooped up for them. I just think that this team, you can see they kind of started to run away with it again. Lots of fighting, 29 kills. You're still in the 18-minute mark. So it really did stack up as time went on, but they just absolutely demolished everyone that stood in their way. And they took any fight that came their way, and they stood their ground. Sometimes it didn't completely go their way, and you'd see like 1-for-2 trades, but for the most part, they won everything that they needed to.
Cool mid laners don't look at Strife. That's all I got from that little play from Sodas right there at the end. Says, yeah, this one's going to hit. Throws it out, turns around, goes right back to the rest of the fights. These golden apples slamming out throughout all points of the game. And yeah, I think we barely had people hitting level 20 by the time that we were getting to that end stage of the game. It was just nonstop fight after fight. It's and I think Mifflin brought up a really good point kind of towards the end there, is because the levels were still so low on the side of Thunderhead, it would be Dark Wizard spawns in, dies. All right, back to the respawn. Okay, he's back in, go to the fight, die. Back into the fight, die. Just constantly back and forth, time and time again. 8-1 for Masked Kill, though. Another strong performance on the Circuit. Toddy 9-2 on the Cernos. We finally got to see a little bit more of this god this game around. Although going with kind of a very standard build that we saw a lot of kind of at the tail end of Season 8, going for the Crusher, Aussie Wind Demon, was topping the damage charts at the end, and a lot of that also kind of boosted there by Sotos' passive, giving a little bit more. But top of the player damage charts for him, right behind Sotos. But then again, I mean, Masked Kill, I mean, we talked about him all game one, how the Circuit was kind of an issue and needed to be dealt with, but it didn't happen here in game 2.
No, in fact, it did almost the opposite of it, right? Like, your solo laner goes undying, your jungler plays Circuit again, only has a single death, your carry only has 2 deaths, and then I think it was the support or the mid, one of the two only had 3 deaths, the other guy had 5. I mean, everybody else, it was just so easy for them, I felt like, to coast into these fights and take control of everything they wanted.
Pretty solid game here out of JUSTF6, and we do have the support for this team standing by for our pregame interview. We're going to talk a little bit with Rotwin here.
Hello.
Circuit play, you know, did really strong in game number 1. We were over here on the desk talking, maybe see the Circuit banned away in game 2. It doesn't get banned away. How does it feel getting to run a pick that dominated so hard in game 1 back in game 2?
To be honest, we were not prepared to play Circuit, but we saw in meta, in a meta, it's so picked, so we have to prepare that.
Okay, so something that really wasn't even in the wheelhouse initially, but seeing it so much kind of ended up bringing that here. Is that something with some of these other picks that we've kind of been seeing out here? I mean, Cabrakan has become such a popular one where you may be expecting to see Cabrakan's kind of coming up in this meta.
Yeah, but I don't think support is going to be the best pick for Cabrakan. But yeah, it's a strong one.
You're going up against Mark. I mean, we were sitting here in the picks and bans. We see these 4 massive frontliners being, you know, kind of locked in. And for a moment, we kind of scratched our head when you see the chalk get locked in the end. Was that kind of y'all's call, like, okay, that's Mark, or we're still kind of wondering where that chalk might have gone?
We have played so much scrims versus them, so we know they're going to prepare source trains to just have fun and try to win us.
How does it feel now that you guys get to, you know, kind of survive another day, you get to move on, and now you're playing up against Samsara, the team that knocked Thunderhead down to this position. How do you feel getting to play up against them tomorrow?
We are so confident. We lost the past day, but we felt so well playing Smite. Today we felt so well as well, so I think tomorrow we are going to play so decently.
All right, well, you look good today. Congratulations on your win. I'll let you get
Can I
back to the
say
team
something in Spanish, please?
Yeah, go for it.
Hace 3 meses murió nuestro amigo Oti. Simplemente quiero decir que viajamos en NA 7 personas, no 6. Estamos orgullosos de todo lo que Oti nos ha aportado en el equipo. Ánimos a su familia, ánimos a sus amigos. Y es algo difícil, pero ánimos.
All right, well, thank you very much, Rotwin. I'll let you get back to celebrate. Congratulations on your win.
Thank you.
Just fun energy coming out here. I like it. Again, you know, we talk about how long these two teams, and they specifically talk about how long they've been playing with them. So the fact that they kind of expected a composition like that to run at them might be the most startling thing of all. But smiling faces all around. They had fun. You saw the celebration, even the clap. You know, the clapping for the enemy team, even at the end. Just great sportsmanship all around here by this team.
I think it's you know, one of those positions where it's like, you know what, and we talk to them. A lot of these guys are coming in when you look at it, and they're like, you know what, it's our tournament to lose. Like, we have everything that we can gain if we do make it to the SPL. But like, at the end of the day, they, like, Thunderhead understands that they know what they are about, what their team is like. They knew who they were going up against. They're buds with these guys, so of course they're going to celebrate them being successful, even if unfortunately it means that this is the end of their run.
And with that win today, JUSTF6 do get to move on, and they'll face Samsara, the team that knocked the team that they just beat down into the losers bracket. And so now they'll have a matchup on that loser side here. We do still have one more game to go, though. It is going to be the Neighborhood and Reverse card. We saw them yesterday, unfortunately, have their fall down here into the lower bracket. One of those teams is going to be going home. One of those teams will move on to face off against nobody's favorite and kind of go up against that other big NA powerhouse of this kind of SCC style of composition, piloted by captain and mid laner El Leon there for that team. Still a long weekend to go, Gore, and now we can kind of talk about how many more matches you have to go. Yeah, you still have 5 more matches in the lower bracket that you have to win in order to make it to the SPL. We're on the top side for, you know, the winners bracket. They've only got 2 more sets. They've got a 1 best of 3 and a best of 5. Meanwhile, you've got 4 best of 3s and then a best of 5 down in the lower bracket. So it always is to be a little bit more advantageous to still be on that top end side of the bracket.
And it's going to be really interesting to see because tomorrow, like, we're starting off kind of inverse of today. We're starting off in the lower bracket, getting some of those elims out, and then we'll see who can actually stay up in the top because we won't have any of those promo matches until Saturday and Sunday. We'll get to finally see who does make it there. But, like, there's a lot of pressure on these teams. I mean, one misstep in a best of 3, one bad game, all of a sudden can throw you down into the lower bracket and make your life a lot harder to try and get to the same path that you, like you mentioned, would have otherwise been kind of coasting through if you managed to stay in the upper bracket.
Well, 3 sets down, only 1 more to go. The Neighborhood Reverse card will be coming up right after this break.